Hey, it's Rachel. Today on Crack Your Bible, we are going to be talking about how shifty Abram was because, yeah, he had great faith, but he was also a ruthless businessman. Now, before we get started, make sure you hit subscribe with the bell with the parentheses so you're notified of a new gospel message because, of course, Satan and Google, they don't want you to know the gospel, so just jump through their hoops, hit subscribe with the bell with the parentheses, and let's get started now. When doing research for this video, oh my goodness, this is a labor of love, you guys, because I had to wade through so much garbage online about Hebrew Israelites in Egypt and all this other stuff, because for whatever reason, people who are in the United States who are also mentally insane have decided that they are now the true Egyptians and also the true Israelites and just all this stupid garbage, even though they can be Native American, Hispanic, Black, but specifically from like the Horn of Africa or where the slave trade was, which has nothing to do with Egypt. But for whatever reason, there are certain pockets of these groups, specifically in the United States, that are trying to say that they're now Egyptians or Hebrew Israelites, and it's just like, oh my gosh, is there a way to filter this out so that I don't have to sit through all this nonsense? But anyway, yeah, I had to wade through a lot of that garbage while doing research for this video, and something that stuck out to me while I was doing research, and I cannot find the article to save my life. I had it on my phone like 2 weeks ago, now I can't find it. It's killing me. But it was talking about how when Abram was down in Egypt, he wasn't just like, oh, I'm so afraid for my life. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, because in doing research, a lot of people will say that Abram went down to Egypt and that's when he started running into trouble because God didn't tell him to go down to Egypt. And it's like, okay, first of all, God is not going to just direct every single minute of your life. Like, oh, I don't know if I need to go to work today. I'm just waiting on God to tell me, do I need to go to work? Do I need to get up and go to school today? No, come on, people. Like, now, when there's a famine in the land, where are you going to go? Common sense, you're going to go to where there's food. And we couldn't just like go down to the grocery shop, oh, I'm going to Tesco, or I'm going to Aldi's, or I'm going to Whole Foods. No, you're going to go down to the Nile River Valley because that's where all the food was back then. And that's what we see Abram doing. So yeah, it's a bad situation, but common sense tells you, hey, it's a famine, go where there's food. It's not like, well, God didn't tell him to do that. Well, God didn't tell him to go starve in the desert either. So take that out of your head real quick. No, but we see that Abram is a really ruthless businessman because, yeah, it's a bad situation, but he is going to try to spin this where he can make some money off of this. Like, why not? When there's ever a depression, businessmen know how to make it work for them. They are the ones that like buy everything up when the prices are low and it's all bad. So we see Abram, ruthless businessman that he is, that's what he's going to do when he rolls through down to Egypt. And Abram is not above using his wife or his family members as pawns. And, you know, I really do feel bad for Sarai. There's other times where, like, she's kind of a... But we can kind of see why she would be fed up with the behavior of Abram and that she's just cranky later on because she's had to deal with just an exhausting life. So she leaves her fancy place over in Mesopotamia. Now there's giants. Now there's a famine. And now they're going down to Egypt. And what does Abram say? Oh, they might kill me, so you need to go along with my plan, Sarai, and tell them that you're my sister. Otherwise, they're going to kill me. Okay, hold on, real quick. Now, people do things for a myriad of reasons. It's not like, oh, there's only one reason and one reason alone that people do things. Yeah, Abram absolutely could have feared for his life, but at the same time, he's like, how can I make this work for me? And I know this because in Mesopotamia, like in the Middle East in some parts, they did dowry. But what it was a bride price that a groom or a potential groom paid to the woman's family. Now remember, who is Abram traveling with? He's not traveling with his family. He has Lot and his wife, and they have no children. So if he is the brother, not really the brother, of Sarai, if somebody's going to be paying a dowry for Sarai, who's going to get all that cash? Abram's going to get all that cash. He's going to make it rain up in here in Egypt. And if you're going to sell a woman off to the Pharaoh of Egypt during a famine, you are going to be raking in cash. I don't think you guys understand how much money Abram was setting up to make off of, pretending to sell off Sarai to Pharaoh. But there's this article, I can't find it. I had it on my phone like 2 weeks ago, and it's killing me that I can't find it. But it talked about how this person thinks that Abram really did not think that Pharaoh was going to marry Sarai, but he kind of got in over his head. He has a big head, like, oh, I'm a genius businessman, and I'm just going to be the one who's making, this is being a puppeteer, he's the one controlling the show. And that's not how it always works. And this is one of Abram's problems. He thinks that he can orchestrate the show all the time, whether it's with God, and we're going to see that later on, or we're going to see it with him in Egypt. And that doesn't always work out for him. So in Mesopotamia, they would have arranged marriages, but they would also have marriage markets where you would start with the most beautiful woman, and the highest bidder would get her, and then you would move on to the next beautiful woman, and then to the ugly women at the end. But what I see happening with Abram, because obviously he remembers God's promises, hey, you're gonna have descendants and all this other stuff. I think what Abram was really trying to do is that when he went down to Egypt, yeah, he's fearing for my life, but he also wants to make some coin out of this. So he's like, Sarai, go along with this. Just say that you're my sister. We're going to milk this guy. We're going to run a scam. This is a long con. He thought it was going to be a long con, and we're going to make some money. But we see that Abram could have, what I think he's trying to do is that he was going to get all this money and all this animals and probably good business contracts down in Egypt, and then at the 11th hour say, oh, there's a higher bidder somewhere else. Just make up some king that's magically giving him more money for Sarai, and that's why Sarai can't be married to Pharaoh, and he's just going to skip town once the famine's over, and he's going to make out like a bandit. But he didn't count on Pharaoh being like, okay, here's some stuff, and now I'm here to collect. And then Sarai now goes into Pharaoh's household, and then it's just like, oh no, what are we gonna do? Because I did not expect for somebody to outcon the con man kind of thing, even though Pharaoh was not conning Abram. And we see that's when God steps in. Not because Abram's right, but because God is true to his word. He made a promise to Abram. I'm going to give this land to your descendants, and it's going to be through your legal wife. It's not going to be through Ishmael or anything else that you come up with, any other scheme or scam you come up with. No, it's going to be through you and Sarai. And God does not wait for us to make good on our promises. God does things just on his own, where it's like, I made a promise to you, regardless of what you do, I'm going to fulfill it. And we see that's where God steps in, and that is when Pharaoh confronts Abram, hey, you lied to me, just get out. Here's a bunch of stuff, you wanted money, here's some money, just get out of my country, because you know what? You are a small fish to me, but I am a small fish to your God, and I don't want to invoke the wrath of this God who spoke to me and told me that you're lying to me. So here's your stuff, just leave with your wife, not your sister, your wife, Abram. But we see that Abram does this con again with another king called Abimelech, and then he teaches this same con to his son Isaac. And although we can be like, wow, he has such great faith, remember, these people, they're human beings first and foremost, and they do a lot of shady stuff, and we need to remember that everybody has a sin nature, and just because they did it does not mean it's okay for us to do it. I know a lot of people will be like, well, they did this in the Bible, and it's like, just because it's in the Bible does not mean that God condones it. And this is one of the things that we see that God doesn't condone. God swoops in and saves the day, not for Abram's sake, not to be like, well, Abram's just so righteous. No, it's because God made a promise to Abram, and no stupid plot from Abram is going to mess up God making good on his promise. So that is what I wanted to share with you, because I know a lot of people try to get really romantic and sappy and, oh, Abram was just fearing for his life. Yeah, but a huge but, he was a scammer. Like, he was scheming, and he had no intention of Sarai getting married to Pharaoh. He was just doing a long con that was cut quite short, shorter than he thought it would be. And then we're going to see him do this again, and then teach his con again. And this does not make it right, because we know that sin existed before the law, but God shows us where we're wrong by showing us the law. Like, here's the law, and this is where you can't justify yourself before God. God knows what Abram was doing. So just because it's in the Bible, remember, that does not necessarily mean that God condones it, even though it looks like God is swooping in and saving Abram and blessing him with more stuff. No. It's really not like that. Nobody's going to stand in the way of God fulfilling his promises to you. So that's all that I wanted to share with you. I hope you will like, subscribe, and share, and I will talk to you later. Bye.